Okay, so this episode of Star Trek Lower Decks might be my favourite one so far. Let's jump into our breakdown and review of episode 8. Hello everyone, my name is Captain Jack and welcome back to Trek Central. Lower Decks episode 8, titled Veritas, is written by Garrick Bernard and directed by Kim Ardent. This episode works as a recall of previous events, all while the ensigns of the USS Cerritos are on trial for something the ship has gotten itself involved with. From cloaked birds of prey, references to the Andorians, and much more. Yes, this episode has it all apparently. Of course, if you are new around here, then make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss a video from us here on Trek Central. We're in the middle of our 23 weeks of Star Trek content right now, so make sure to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek developments. You can also follow us on social media such as Twitter or Facebook, and also Instagram. The links to these are down below in the video description, and all the other crucial information you might need. Okay, let's get into this. Now, I'm going to cover this first. Obviously, one of the biggest turnouts in this episode was the cameo of John Delancey as Q. Sadly, it was only really a minute long, with Q appearing and transporting a bridge crew into one of his many weird and wonderful situations. But he does appear once again towards the end of the episode. Q bullshit is now how to describe anything he actually does. He goes on to describe how hanging out with Jean-Luc Picard is not fun anymore, due to the fact he's always quoting Shakespeare and just makes wine all the time. This is of course a reference and it sticks out well as Sir Patrick Stewart is a Shakespearean actor, while retired Admiral Jean-Luc Picard did just make wine all the time and chat to his dog. Simpler times, I'd say. This week's opening introduction is not really a cold open in a sense, as it serves to set up the context of the episode in some capacity. The Lower Decks crew are thrown into what looks like an alien dungeon as it rises up to some sort of chamber. While I personally prefer the cold opens, I think for longer episodes the traditional introduction to the context of the episode does also work well in some capacity. It really does depend on the episode itself and whether a cold open will make sense or it won't really fit the sense and style of the episode. Again, it really depends. I expect if we reviewed the season as a whole, we could really make that comparison a lot more easier. Now honestly, the whole trial chamber part of this episode gave me Klingon vibes, and I think that was the intention of it at the end of the day, to make similarities between what we've seen before so that us viewers can make the connection. The old Horn of Truth is another Star Trek cliche where these weird alien objects are typically forced onto the crew to explain themselves about something. For some reason I'm getting flashbacks to Jonathan Archer having to chop down a tree and arrange it in some weird pattern, only because his dog Porthos did his business on a sacred tree. Honestly, these alien customs do get a little bit far-fetched and weird sometimes, I do have to say. Luckily, the NX Enterprise was carrying a chainsaw, and I watched the episode recently, it was quite fun. Now, the whole bridge scenes with Ensigns Mariner and Boimler arriving late was something I've been looking forward to seeing for some time now. We get Boimler attempted to offer some quality advice, with Dr. Nana replying, "Is he fucking serious?"
Is he serious?
There's also that dynamic where Mariner gets the answer correct while Boimler does not, while offering the captain advice. The old no wrong answers is given, yet all of Boimler's answers are wrong, leading Mariner to send a message with firing a warning shot of the phasers. Yes, I totally agree with Mariner that the phrase sending a message means firing a warning shot, not inviting him over to dinner. I mean, come on now, it's kind of simple at the end of the day. For some reason I'm now remembering the Undiscovered Country movie where it's like, guess who's coming to dinner? I need to rewatch that again at some point. The episode as a whole revolves around the Lower Decks crew recalling events from a seemingly classified mission they all ended up somewhat involved in. The part of Ensign Rutherford's implant being used to sneak into an old museum, somewhat associated with Vulcan it seems. Now those were kind of interesting. Not only were the strike team using black pajamas, but also using an old Vulcan warp sled, seen in the motion picture movie, aka Star Trek's first movie. The black pajamas, first seen in The Next Generation, have been used in the past Lower Decks episode as well, where the bridge crew on a top secret seed planting mission, which I heard was a growing success. See what I did there? Honestly, I have too much fun when I write these videos by myself. Please send help. Throughout these episodes, the references to previous Star Trek are sticking out everywhere. Not that I don't mind it, but seriously, you could not look anywhere else without noticing something. In the museum section, you could see the Toplana Half, that was the ship that made first contact with humanity, Zeph and Cochrane, and was first seen in Star Trek First Contact. You could also see Starfleet and Ferengi shuttles hanging about and in various places around the floor. Oh, and I'm pretty sure the security guard was wearing the classic motion picture and Undiscovered Country Starfleet security outfit. You know, the red helmet and the sort of like red, riot vest in a way. It did look kind of interesting. Rutherford's implant constantly deactivating introduced us to an array of ventures with Shax's little strike team. This has gotten them involved in some weird situations, including standing on a cloaked bird of prey, a Gorn wedding, another Gorn feeding pit, aka those eating Rutherford, and finally back on the USS Cerritos. Honestly, it's all a bit weird, but kind of funny at the same time. Now, Ensign Tendi's mission, which was using the stolen bird of prey that Shaxx and Rutherford's team stole, told the story of how her and Commander Jack Ransom moved their way into Romulan neutral zone and to the capital world of Romulus to eventually extract someone. Tendi somehow found herself involved in a Black Ops mission, which got her the nickname The Cleaner. Even though she was assigned to transporter duty, she actually got involved and kicked some serious Romulan ass, much to the surprise of Commander Ransom and the other team members, which did include a very buff Andorian. Shan can eat his higher, this one. Really, this episode's story comes down to the lower decks crew not being informed about what is actually happening on the bridge of the ship. I expect this might be something that happens across the whole of Starfleet. You know, while Picard is going about with a Borg on the Enterprise D, I would hardly imagine that Jeremy in Tenford, who has just ordered a chocolate ice cream for Deanna Troi, is going to know what the mission is and why there's now a fire in his replicator. We're also treated to Boimler explaining this, while mentioning how the senior staff constantly mess things up, with Dr. Nana boarding the wrong starship because they all look the same at the end of the day. Well, I've got to give it to her, they kinda do, especially like the California class, too many of them. Though imagine serving on a Miranda class, now that would be difficult. Commander Ransom is also told about how his alien dates kinda go wrong, because he doesn't really do research into them. You know, he's trying to seduce a salt vampire, that's just not gonna go very well. And second thought, how did the salt vampire get on the ship anyway? Now honestly, my final thoughts on this episode as a whole was it was really enjoyable and might be one of my favourite episodes of the whole series. Yes, it was rather fast paced, but the content fitted together perfectly. The alien presiding over the fake trial also made a reference to 22 minutes, which is roughly the episode length of episode 8. A neat little detail at the end of the day. If you spotted a reference to previous Star Trek, then let us know in the comments section below. There were plenty throughout this episode from birds of prey, Romulans, Vulcans, and much, much more. Personally, the classified mission to recover the alien also reminds me of one episode from TNG, in which there was a similar mission I believe. I can't remember the name of the episode off the top of my head, but perhaps one of you can let me know in the comment section. It might have been the episode where Deanna Troi was assigned as an undercover Tal Shiar operative. It might be that, I honestly can't remember. It's been ages since I've watched the Next Gen series. Now the Q element of this episode was something we've been expecting since Star Trek Day, when Lower Decks series creator Mike McCann revealed to us that he would be making a cameo. Sadly it was short, but honestly it did fit and complement the episode well. Yes, we all love classic longer cameos at the end of the day, but it really does depend on how it fits into the episode. It's the same way cameos and appearances have been described in Star Trek Picard. These legendary characters should only appear if they serve to complement the story at hand. With Lower Decks, the writers can be a bit more flexible, but unless Picard has a core reason to fit into the story, he shouldn't really be in it. I'm just using that for an example, but I would be interested in your opinion though. My favourite moment of this episode? It's kind of a hard one. I've been laughing at the Dr. Nana moment for some time now, but also Q appearing at the very end worked well with him just casually floating around in the chair while the crew ignore him. You sort of have to wonder how many times this has happened in Star Trek before, and we don't know about it. Does Q just randomly appear to terrorise over Starfleet officers? Not the hardest thing to believe, I guess, but again, it's Q. I mean, he's never been back to DS9 since Sisko punched him, but hey. Okay, so that does wrap up a review and breakdown of Star Trek Lower Decks Episode 8. A little bit of a shorter review this week, so my apologies if this isn't the long version you expect. Do make sure to tune into our weekly livestream series every Sunday at 9 PM BST to hear our live thoughts on the episodes, as well as chatting with yourselves and answering questions that you may have about the episode and series so far. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends.